The New York Giants' initial 53-man roster is set. What do I think about it? What surprises were there? What's still to come? We're going to talk about all that and more on today's LockedOn Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to a new edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. My name is Patricia Traina, and today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you in part by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster than ever before. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, the NFL, speaking of which, the teams have set their initial 53-man rosters, the New York Giants included. And it's interesting because as you are probably hearing this, there might be some changes underway to the Giants 53-man roster. But I'm here to talk to you today about some takeaways, some impressions about what the Giants did with the 53-man roster. Now, there weren't a whole lot of surprises, maybe a few things that, you were expecting to go one way and they went the other. So we're going to run down position by position to talk about what went down. And we'll also try to forecast what's still to come as General Manager Joe Schoen, Head Coach Brian Daboll continue to tweak this roster. And there will be a lot of tweaking between basically Wednesday through the next several days as practice squads get set, as more guys get released, as the personnel carousel turns. So let's get right into it. All right. I'm just going to go down the line position by position group. Start off with quarterbacks. Now, at quarterback, the Giants kept two guys, Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor. Davis Webb did not make the roster. Am I surprised? Well, let's put it to you this way. Davis Webb played well enough to warrant a spot on the 53-man roster. The problem that the Giants were going to have, and they were going to have this all along, is that due to injuries at other positions, the team had to pretty much steal spots here and there. Well, folks, quarterback is one of the spots that they had to steal from. So Davis Webb right now is on waivers. I don't know necessarily that another team is going to pick him up. I believe the plan that the Giants would like to see happen is have Davis Webb come back and be on the practice squad where, they'll be able to shuffle him up and down as need be. Because look, let's face it, given Daniel Jones's history and Tyrod Taylor's injury history, you probably want to have a third quarterback waiting in the wings on the practice squad. So just in case there's an injury to QB1 or QB2, you've got a guy waiting in the wings who knows the system. Davis Webb knows the system inside and out. He's shown that he can execute it. Yeah, I get it. He did it against second, third, and fourth string players. But, you look at the intangibles, the decisions, you look at the throws, being on the same page with the receivers, seeing things the same way. And look, Davis Webb, they could do a lot worse than to have Davis Webb on the practice squad if they needed another guy there. All right, running backs and fullbacks. The Giants kept a total of 5 actually here. And the 5th guy is actually Chris Myarick, who was listed initially as a tight end, but they switched him over to fullback. So the 4 running backs that the Giants kept, Saquon Barkley, Matt Breida, Gary Brightwell, and Antonio Williams. Jashawn Corbin was the odd man out of the group, the undrafted rookie free agent. Now, Corbin, initially I think I had him on my 53-man roster, but in retrospect, you go back, you look at the tape, the pass pro needed to come up to snuff. The special teams, he did special teams, but probably not as much as a Gary Brightwell. So those factors kind of helped Brightwell and hurt Corbin. Now, that's not to say that Corbin can't be on the practice squad or won't be on the practice squad where he can continue to work on learning new things. But, Once you saw Gary Brightwell take on a bigger role in special teams, the handwriting was sort of on the wall. And as for Sandro Platzkummer, he gets an extra year of a roster exemption. Normally, from the International Pathway Program, the league gives the team 2 years of exemptions for a player. But because of the pandemic, anybody who had a International Pathway Player Program player in 2020 or 2021 gets the extra year of eligibility. Okay, and then the addition of Antonio Williams, really not a surprise if you think about it. He came from Buffalo. He knows the system, kind of expected, I guess, So the Giants, again, with 4 running backs, the one fullback, Chris Myrick, who's a fullback, tight end, H-back. Now, speaking of tight ends, the Giants only have 2 listed, Daniel Bellinger and Tanner Hudson. That group, theoretically, has 22 games of NFL experience. Now, I would not be surprised, folks, if the Giants look to bring in another veteran tight end to that group. Because if you go back and you look initially at what the Giants were trying to do at tight end, they had Ricky Seals-Jones, Jordan Akins. Those guys were veterans who had played a few games in the NFL. I would not be surprised if the Giants go and look to add somebody who has that kind of veteran experience. Bellinger, had a solid summer, a solid preseason, but he's still a little on the raw side. So, to add to that group, I don't think would hurt. And I think the reason why the Giants only have 2 is because they had to steal a spot for other spots on the roster. So we'll continue to go on the list. And actually, one of the spots that they had to steal a spot for to add an extra guy is this next group we're going to talk about. Wide receivers, where the Giants kept 7. And the 7 are Sterling Shepard, Kenny Golladay, Darius Slayton, Kadarius Toney, Wan'Dale Robinson, Richie James, and David Sills. And yes, folks, you heard correct. Darius Slayton is still on this roster. Now, there's also a name that's not on this roster, Alex Bachman. Let me talk first about Darius Slayton. The Giants, according to ESPN, received some trade inquiries about Slayton. Now, I don't know who made them offers. I don't know what was offered, but the Giants are not going to simply give the guy away for nothing. Now, quite honestly, Slayton was a 5th-round pick. I think to expect anything higher than a 5th-round pick at this point is being foolish. Are the Giants maybe looking for a conditional pick, which I believe is the case? That could very well be what the holdup is. Did a team make an offer and say, hey, we'll give you a 7th rounder or a conditional 7th rounder for Slayton? If Slayton stays on the roster for 4 games, you get a 7th rounder. But if we cut him, you get nothing. That could be the holdup there. The Giants could also, like you said, want a higher pick and say, hey, we want a conditional 7th round pick that turns into a 6th round pick if Slayton meets certain criteria. So I think, I would believe that there were trade talks involving Darius Slayton, but the Giants are trying to optimize a potential trade there. They don't want a situation where they agree to, trade the guy for a conditional 7. And if he doesn't stay on the other team's roster for 4 games, they lose out and Slayton hits the waiver wire and another team picks him up. That's what I think is the holdup there with that particular roster move. And if they can't trade him, it sounds like they're willing to carry him. I don't know how long they would do so. 7 receivers, to my thinking, is a lot, even though we don't know if Kadarius Toney is going to be ready for week 1, even though Sterling Shepard is still working his way back from an Achilles injury. So these are all things that the Giants have to sort out. Now, I mentioned that Alex Bachman did not make the roster. Simply put, ladies and gentlemen, the numbers were stacked against him. Alex Bachman is a slot receiver, and with Sterling Shepard, Toney, and Robinson on the depth chart ahead of him, there just wasn't any room. And it's a shame because, Alex Bachman had a really good summer. He led the NFL with 19 receptions, just seems like it's the end of the line. Now, could they potentially bring him back on the practice squad? Perhaps. We'll see if somebody picks him up. But Alex Bachman, I think he's been on the Giants practice squad now since 2019. Ultimately, it's going to come to an end. I mean, at some point, you just got to take a hint and realize that it's just going to come to an end. All right, Giant fans, we have offensive line, defensive line, and matter of fact, the entire defense coming up. So stick around. We'll get to those sections right after this. Hey, business owners, as you gear up for fall, you need the right people on your team to help your small business fire on all cylinders. LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people that you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job posting in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond, the world's largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring so that your network can help you find the right people to hire. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so that you can quickly prioritize whom you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Post your job for free right now at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, Giant fans, planning your fantasy sports or betting action for 2022 has never been easier when you use Prize Picks. You can win up to 10 times the amount of your money on any entry. There's no competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available for any of the major sporting leagues. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Prize Picks is currently operational in over 30 states and in Canada and offers safe and fast withdrawals. So download the Prize Pick app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the LockedOn Giants podcast. My name is Patricia Traina, and I have initial thoughts on the Giants 53-man roster. And I want to stress this is an initial roster. It's going to change. I'm anticipating a busy Wednesday, as a matter of fact, where we're going to have waiver wire claims that were awarded to the Giants. There might be some veteran free agent signings. And, once the dust settles, I'm going to try and take a look at the salary cap and see where things stand there. Right now, it's kind of hard to do that, but going to be interesting because the Giants don't have a whole lot of money right now to do with their practice squad to take care of, some of these signings that they might want to add. So very curious to see how the next 24 to 48 hours, as I record this on Tuesday night, how those shape up. So let's get back, before we get back to the next position group on our list, just a reminder, on Friday, live show with the entertainer, kind of a state of the Giants show. We'll see where everything is with the roster. We'll talk about expectations, what we saw in the preseason. The show with the entertainer is always fun. We'll take your questions. So hope you will join us. It'll be Friday, 11 a.m. On the LockedOn Giants YouTube channel. So check that out. And the replay will be available afterwards. And we'll also have the audio for our Odyssey listeners, Apple listeners, Google listeners, and so on and so forth. So, all right, let's get back to the initial 53-man roster and my takeaways. Let's look at the offensive line. The Giants kept 9, and they are Andrew Thomas, Mark Lewinsky, John Feliciano, Shane Lemieux, Evan Neal, Ben Bredesen, Joshua Izudu, Max Garcia, who beat out Jamil Douglas, and Devery Hamilton. All right, now this is a unit where I can pretty much guarantee you a guy's going to get moved to injured reserve, possibly 2. Shane Lemieux is not going to be ready for a few weeks. He's dealing with that toe/foot ailment. He's going to get moved to IR. I can pretty much sit here and guarantee you that. I do not know what the status is with Ben Bredesen and if his elbow is such that he's going to necessitate a stint on IR. Remember, if a player is added to IR, he has to miss 4 games minimum, and he can come back. The Giants can bring him back after he misses the 4 games. So Lemieux is definitely a candidate. I don't know about Bredesen because I don't know how serious his injury was, but there's going to be some changes and some new faces added to this offensive line group, probably veterans, who I couldn't tell you because obviously I don't know what waiver wire claims they put in, but I'm pretty sure you're going to see some new faces on the offensive line. All right. Defensive line. Let's talk about that. No surprise really there. The defensive line, the Giants kept 5 guys: Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Justin Ellis, DJ Davidson, and Nick Williams. So I think Jalen Holmes was who was running with the ones in the base defense. He was cut. All right. He kind of fell by the wayside. Plus, the Giants aren't really going to be in their base defense a whole lot. So the guys that they have here, Dexter Lawrence can play the nose. Justin Ellis can play the nose. DJ Davidson. They have a good mixture here. And if this group stays healthy, defensive line is probably going to be one of the strengths of this Giant team as far as position groups go. So again, no surprise there. Now, where the surprise come is in the linebackers. So between the outside linebackers and the inside linebackers, the Giants kept a total of 12 guys, 6 each. So let me start with the outside linebacker group because, again, like the offensive line, there is going to be some movement here. All right, so the 6 that the Giants kept: Kayvon Thibodeau, O'Shane Ximenez, Azeez Ojulari, Ellerson Smith, Jihad Ward, Tamon Fox. All right, missing from that group, Quincy Roche. That one really hurts, folks. I got to be honest with you. Quincy Roche, I know he's not as athletic or agile as O'Shane Ximenez, but my gosh, was he a physical player. And I just don't understand how they couldn't find room for the kid. I really don't, but I fully expect somebody's going to scoop him up off waivers. I would be stunned if that doesn't happen. But anyway, let's get back to the guys that they did keep. Of those guys, Ellerson Smith is going to be a while, so he's going to go to IR. That will drop that outside linebacker group down to 5 guys. So who benefits from that position group? There's maybe the safeties who I'm going to talk about in the next segment who currently have 3 guys. Maybe they get that extra spot that becomes available. Maybe the Giants use that to sign back Davis Webb to the roster. Hard to say, but I think when it's all said and done, the Giants will have 5 outside linebackers on this roster: Thibodeau, Ximenez, Ojulari, Jihad Ward, and Tamon Fox. Now, just, while I'm still on the subject, Thibodeau and Azeez Ojulari are still working their way back from injuries from the preseason. They are anticipated to be ready for week 1, but it's going to be a kind of a close call. Worst case scenarios, if one or both are not ready, it's probably not the end of the world because the Titans are a run-heavy team, and the Giants are going to probably want to go heavy with their personnel on defense. But, even if those 2 pass rushers aren't ready, or one of 2 is not ready, by week 2, I think they'll be good to go. So I'm not too concerned about any of those guys missing action for the long term. All right, inside linebacker. This one was a surprise to me because they kept 6, as I said. So the 6 are Blake Martinez, Micah McFadden, Tate Crowder, Cam Brown, Carter Coughlin, and Austin Calitro. All right, so right off the bat, Cam Brown is a special teams guy. You might see him here and there on defense, but his purpose in life, as far as his football team is concerned, is going to be special teams. McFadden, not a surprise there. Tate Crowder, he was the incumbent, not a surprise. I was a little surprised that Carter Coughlin was kept, but you know what? In thinking about it, Coughlin can bring value on special teams, and he also has versatility to play inside linebacker or outside linebacker. Not the end of the world to keep him. I mentioned before how Ojulari and Thibodeau might not be ready for week 1. In case they're not, Well, Coughlin, I guess, could step in if he needed to as a situational pass rusher. And Austin Calitro, look, all the guy did all summer long was make plays. So is anybody going to really quibble over the fact that he made the roster? I don't think so. Probably not there. All right. Coming up, folks, we'll talk about cornerback, safety, special teams, and we'll take a look at the 10, that's right, 10 captains that the New York Giants voted on right after this. Hey, Giant fans, if you're living paycheck to paycheck or struggling to make ends meet, it can really be stressful when the unexpected expenses come up. Well, now Dave can help you get out of a pinch when you really need it. Dave is the banking app that can help you get up to $500. There's no interest or credit check needed. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to get the financial relief they need. Visit the App Store today and download Dave. That's DAVE. Sign up for an extra cash account and get up to $500. Terms and conditions apply, and instant transfer fees apply. Visit dave.com/legal for complete information. Banking provided by Evolve, member FDIC. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the LockedOn Giants podcast. Initial thoughts on the initial 53-man roster. Unfortunately for me, I think a lot of these thoughts might be outdated by the time this podcast really takes root on Wednesday, but you know what? That's just the way it goes. So take it for what it's worth, and I hope you're enjoying the podcast all the same. So let's talk now about the cornerbacks and what the Giants did there. The Giants kept 5 cornerbacks. No surprise on the number. 5 are Adoree Jackson, Darnay Holmes, Aaron Robinson, Rodarius Williams, and Cordell Flott. Now, there's a situation where I think one of these guys, namely Rodarius Williams, is going to get moved to IR. Rodarius Williams is coming off the ACL injury from last year. Practiced for about 4 days at the start of training camp, hasn't been seen since. So you almost wonder if maybe he rushed back and should have started the, summer on PUP as opposed to, passing the physical and practicing and then boom, having a setback. And we're assuming that that's what it is. The Giants haven't said what exactly is going on with Rodarius Williams, but unless it's a new injury, you've got to assume that it's related to the ACL. So really unfortunate, but the Giants are going to, I think, move Rodarius Williams off the roster, put him on IR. They apparently think that they can get him back at some point, because if they didn't, they would have put him on IR right off the bat. So if he's not going to be ready for a week or 2 or 3 or 4, put him on IR, bring in a veteran, get some reinforcement there, because look, Adoree Jackson has been solid. Darnay Holmes has been pretty much solid. Aaron Robinson has had some troubles, but he's coming along, and Cordell Flott is still, kind of finding his way. So that cornerback group, I think we can all agree, is probably the biggest question mark right now on this team. And it would be nice if the Giants could add some reinforcement to that group. I think they will, and I think it'll come at the expense of Rodarius Williams' roster spot. All right, safeties. Here was a surprise. The Giants only kept 3 as opposed to 4. And the 3 are Xavier McKinney, Julian Love, and Dane Belton. Now, I thought maybe Trenton Thompson would have an opportunity to make it, or even Nate Meadors, who could play cornerback and safety. But the Giants apparently felt they had to steal from a position group, that being safeties in this case, and add someplace else. Was it inside linebacker, for example? Possibly. But they only have 3. Now, will they add another one? I think they'll probably add one to the practice squad, but for the time being, they'll probably go with just the 3 because, the roster still needs to be settled down somewhat. And I'm not sure how it's going to be settled, but they definitely, I would get another safety in here if I were them. And preferably a guy who has experience to help round out the roster and that defensive secondary. All right. And then finally, special teams. No surprise there. Three specialists, Graham Gano, Jamie Gillian, Casey Kreider. They're going to roll with those three. And, Gillian, I know in the beginning of the summer, I had my doubts about him, but he's punted really well towards the end of the summer, the end of the preseason. And it's not so much how you start, it's how you finish. So kudos to Jamie Gillian for really, coming on strong and nailing it. So that's the initial 53. Like I said, I expect there's going to be some changes, a lot of changes, actually. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see who the Giants put waiver claims in for and who they get, and also what they do, because they don't have a whole lot of salary cap space to get a full practice squad together and to maybe sign a few veterans. So going to be some manipulating that needs to be done. I'm still checking to see if, Leonard Williams has his contract redone. I think that that's the logical way to go, but I don't know if there been any talks between the Giants and Leonard Williams' agents to do that. So we'll just have to, see how the next several days unfold. All right, before we wrap up, I just want to acknowledge the 10 captains that the New York Giants have named. That's right, folks, 10 captains. That's a lot of captains. And I think initially the plan was 3, 3, and 3, but Julian Love, who is a first-time captain, got so many votes on defense and on special teams that they decided just to add him as a fourth guy to the defensive captainship. So anyway, the 3 offensive captains, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and Andrew Thomas. Jones, I think this is his 3rd time as a captain. Barkley, his 4th. And this is the first time for Andrew Thomas. All right, on defense, again, all first-time captains for the Giants. Xavier McKinney, Leonard Williams, Julian Love, and Dexter Lawrence. All right, all of them voted captain for the first time. Of them, only Leonard Williams is not on his rookie contract. So again, that youth movement kicking in. And oh, by the way, Blake Martinez was not voted a captain this year. Blake had been a captain for 2 years, the first 2 years of his career. The Giants going in a different direction. So, read into that however you want, or maybe just don't read into it. But Blake Martinez isn't going to be with this team beyond this year. You would like to think that McKinney, Leonard Williams, Julian Love, and Dexter Lawrence will be. So, you're looking towards the future here. And then on special teams, you've got Graham Gano, long snapper Casey Kreider, and linebacker Cam Brown. So this is Gano's second go-around as a Giants captain and the first time for Kreider and for Brown. So again, a lot of first-time captains, a lot of captains on this team that are on their rookie campaigns, a lot of youthful leadership. And that's what, I think head coach Brian Daboll was trying to build up. So it's going to be interesting. Captains, I know a lot of people think, well, the only thing they do is they go out for the pregame coin toss. But no, they become the voices inside the locker room, the guys that their teammates know that they can go to. So an interesting group, a large group, and we'll see how it all functions. I guess, you can almost make the argument if they were going to do a leadership council, now they don't need to because they have this large group of captains. So we'll see how it all comes together. Again, the roster is not set in cement. We have the initial 53-man roster. The captains are. I don't think the captains are going anywhere, but there's going to be a lot more to talk about when it comes to this roster. We will bring you everything you need to know here on the LockedOn Giants podcast and over on Giants Country. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you stay with us all week long as we bring you more on the New York Giants. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, everybody.